Welcome to Commerce Media Matters, your go-to podcast for unpacking the world of commerce media. Here, we catch up with industry leaders on news, research, insights, perspectives, and everything in between.
Hi, I'm Paul Blackburn, Chief Strategy Officer over here at Vudoo.
Hi, I'm Nick Morgan, founder and CEO of Vudoo.
And today's a bit of a special mid-year check-in on all things commerce media, the trends, the shifts, the hype.
Yep.
I've been to Cannes, I've changed jobs. It's a big one.
There's an elephant in the room, and I just want to also put it out there that I am in a capital raising bubble. I'm come up for air out of the capital raise. You've been out there in the world. I'm going to take the mantle today, and I'm going to be interviewing you. And I've got questions, and as per usual, I have opinions, and I'm not going to hold back. You know what I'm like. So I'm going to drive today, and I want your best answers, Paul from Vudoo.
Let's get into it.
We've got a few things to cover, actually. So, we're going to break down what we saw at Cannes. We're going to talk about what's heating up globally. Mm-hmm. And there's some major kind of pivots happening with creativity and measurement. So much stuff going on with AI every single day. And if anyone's picked up, you're not Paul Blackburn at News Corp anymore, are you?
I'm not, no.
What's changed, Paul?
Well, after 13 years at News Corp, I love and still love News Corp, and we're doing lots of stuff with News Corp and Vudoo. I figured it was time to challenge myself in the startup world. And, I think right back when we first met, Nick, I loved what Vudoo does, and I could see the opportunity for the future in commerce media, hence the reason we're on this podcast together. But I can see the opportunities now for a company like Vudoo, for commerce media in general, and I wanted to be a part of it. So if you can't beat them, join them.
Well, we love having you on board, and we're very grateful to News Corp, our friends, for allowing you to come to us. We're still, as you said, we're still working very deeply with them, and they're incredible. Mm-hmm. And we're just really stoked to have you on board. We've become good mates. We've been to some places. We've trekked the globe. And you've joined the team here to really kind of help ramp things up. And it's an incredibly exciting time. Mm-hmm. We've got lots of stuff coming in that we can't talk about just yet that we're announcing here at Vudoo, which you're playing a key role of. So I'm stoked to have you here, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, boss.
That's weird.
It is weird, but you knew this when I came across. I'm a bit of a loose cannon, so I might let some little snippets of information slip.
That's okay. Look, something that we do every year, and Vudoo's only really been a part of it for the last maybe 3 years. And I actually didn't attend this year, and I probably should have, but I had a bit going on. But Cannes this year was huge. They're saying it was one of the biggest ever, doubling down on budgets globally, people throwing themselves and their companies and just incredible activations. But just like what Cannes always is just a melting pot of just extreme amount of business. Mm-hmm. I think people think about Cannes, I think, oh yeah, it's rosé, it's wine, and it's like, oh, well, lovely. And I think you came back and said to me, your watch told you did 25 Ks of walking every day because you're just sprinting to meetings.
Yeah, up and down that Croisette.
Up and down that Croisette, right?
Yeah. I've been there the last 3 years with you, seeing the evolution over the last 3 years. The first year, it was the Festival of Creativity. It was definitely about creative. You saw whispers of commerce media. You had your Critios and those guys that were changing tacks and really leaning into retail media and so forth. But it was a bit of a whisper. Year two, I think we saw a very senior sort of cohort join, and it was all business.
Yeah.
Definitely over some rosé, and there was definitely some out on some boats, but it really was a serious business time. This year, it was the year of retail media. So same sort of thing. The big retail media operations sent double the amount of people. Everywhere you looked up and down the Croisette, you saw retail media, network brandings. It really was the talk of the town. There were some fantastic debates. The Zitcher guys at the pub did a fantastic debate. It was really down to earth. I think that'll be a fixture going forward for Cannes and commerce media and retail media is the Zitcher debate. It was fantastic. Everyone likes the coin. It's the year of.
Yeah.
This year at Cannes, I really felt that it was the year of retail media, that it's here. It's a fixture. And you really saw the investment from some big companies in Cannes itself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I heard the Zitcher debate was something that like sorely missed, and shout out to those guys because they're killing it and they're doing such a great job and putting their name out there and bringing, activations like really deep kind of discussions. Sounded amazing. Something that really stood out from afar and the team really talked to me about was the real focus also on creativity. There was a sense of creativity being that maybe over the last few years, as you said, the year before was really very, business, corporate kind of, vibe. What was your experience with regards to creativity being a focus?
Yeah, look, I mean, that was what Cannes all about, right? It's the festival of creativity. And I think it was that dynamic or that lens that we were looking at all the different things. So you saw that pop up with AI. So AI tools for creativity. I think 3 years ago, we saw David Droga talk about how it's only going to increase creativity. And that 3 years on is absolutely the case. There's some really cool tools around creativity. There's a sense of fear that, there's some things that AI can do now that might replace some roles. And then there's another camp that are embracing it and seeing that they can just do so much more with these AI tools around creativity. When you applied that same prism to retail media networks and commerce media, you heard the brands really starting now that commerce media and retail media networks are no longer a niche. 31% of US advertisers are now investing in commerce media. What they are questioning, though, is how do we get our brand message, our creativity, into the inventory that's on those commerce media networks? And that was really the call to arms from the brands and the advertisers, and challenging these commerce media networks and retail media networks around how can they show up creatively in their environments, and how can they therefore, with creativity, show incrementality that these commerce media opportunities and retail media networks are promising.
Yeah, that seems spot on. Yeah, as I said, from afar, that really came across, and our teams talked about it a lot. It's a real challenge, right? How do you keep delivering on the fantastic growth and opportunities that you provide for your brands from your retail media network, your commerce media network, but then how do you elevate that brand's position or its messaging or its campaign? How do you do that through your network, through the tools that you have? And that's something that obviously, a big part of what Vudoo do is playing in that creative layer space, right?
Yep.
We feel like that's something that we do strongly, but we're going to see more of that focus. And I think the key to it is AI. I don't think we have all the answers around solving the creativity piece in retail media. AI can play a really, really key role in unlocking some of those answers.
100%. I think the other thing we saw is the US market is really motored along and leading the way with regards to retail media and commerce media. It's really interesting to see, how fragmented that market is with so many players in the space. What we heard from all of those players was a similar thing that, all the advertisers are jumping on board and they're now actually running out of inventory on their owned and operated assets. And so they're really understanding now that they need to use the data sets and that opportunity for closed loop attribution that retail media sort of promises to look off network, to bring audiences from outside of their owned and operated, as well as harness the audiences they already have in that retail media network. And so that was really where I think a lot of the retail media networks were starting to talk to the advertisers about where they're going to evolve their product, which is really interesting for a business like ours because we can play a key role in helping that off-network piece, that shoppability off-network.
Yeah.
And in the US, there are a lot of commerce media players, a lot of people that do elements of the shoppable experience like Vudoo does. And so that was the other thing we noticed, that this is a place where there's a huge amount of growth in startups. What we did also notice is that not all shoppable is created equal. This word shoppable really needs to be defined what it means. It's a bit of a coverall between...
It's been a bit of a catch-all, isn't it, really?
Correct. There's products out there that do a lot of the heavy lifting and then send you off to then complete your transaction. Or there's products that we're working on where we want to be able to convert straight from the piece of creative without having to click out. And so there is varying degrees of what shoppable is, and it takes a little while to understand exactly what the offering is. And so I suppose the learning there is to really understand the different shoppable products and how they differ from delivering results.
Yep. And I think the time for brands to understand that what is shoppable, what is truly shoppable, what's coming down the line. We're hearing lots of what's going on with Shopify and OpenAI. We're hearing lots of what's happening with Google, what they're going to be doing inside their browser. There's, this shift around allowing consumers to transact and convert at the point of inspiration. Let's talk about the storefront ads that PayPal. There's definitely this shift happening, and so it's an exciting but also a really challenging time for brands because there's so much change. And right in the middle of it, you've got SEO now being impacted by AIO. Paul, have I got that right? I think I have.
I'm happy for you to coin it. Yeah,
brands have got so much to manage at the moment because there's just so much change. So it's being really clear about what does what. If you lean into just really vague band-aid terms around, we do this, we do that, you're going to find yourself kind of falling behind. You've got to get on top of this, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the secret for me is to focus on the consumer, and you've got to give consumer choice and flexibility when it comes to online shopping and e-commerce transactions. They're looking for choice. And, I welcome the PayPals and, TikTok shops because they are changing user expectation. And the user expectation is getting to a point where they're going to expect to be able to transact if they feel like it. They're going to be able to expect that if I want to know a bit more about that product, see what the range is, see the live pricing, see where I can stock it. And hey, if I'm ready, I'll click and I'll buy. And so we love that there's this growth in this area. But I think the learning here is to focus on taking the friction out for the consumer. And I think the winners are going to be people that can, harness all of the different channels to get to the consumer. So, will we see TikTok Shop expand out of the TikTok environment and allow, TikTok shopping to happen in the open web? Because, open web is still an important part of the media mix. Will we see, transactable media using your phone in cinema or out of home? How do you bring it all together? Because, a marketer is going to want to use that mix of channels to deliver their outcomes. And how do you remain agnostic to channel and bring it all together is what I think will be interesting in the next couple of months. Yep.
We've got good friends at now Outbrain Now Teeds. We've seen them talk about, brand performance. I think they've got a term there.
Brandformance.
Thank you. Sorry, Teeds. You're going to hate me for that, but big love. It's understanding when is the right time for a brand to say, hey, we're going to move our shoppable, we're going to mature our shoppable capability. We've been dabbling in here, we've been looking at this, and we're now going to move to an always-on infrastructure. We're going to allow all of our touch points at any time, whether it's brand performance, we're going to bring that capability outside of our website, our platform, and allow all of our touch points to be a point of conversion. When do we move to that just always on? And we're starting to see some of that. Some of the conversations we're having with some leading brands, global leading brands, are moving to having that infrastructure just always on. Whether the consumer shops, checks out or not, it's optionality of, I see your brand, I have a touch point, I want to purchase, and allowing them to have that. We saw this coming a number of years ago, hence why we exist. And we really leaned into what, how TikTok did that. And we love what TikTok's doing. And it's really interesting to see the big AI platforms, large language models, Google, PayPal, others say, hey, consumers want this. Consumers want the ability to shop, whether that's browse or transact, whenever they want. And they don't want to have to just travel around the internet to do that. They want to do it inside a walled garden. They want to do it outside of a walled garden. It's really exciting, but there's a plethora of challenges for brands to understand which way is the right path. And, the AIO, which was kind of like this term that's being thrown around now, and I think is really polarizing for people. Maybe you want to unpack that a little bit, Paul, because I know you know this. You're deep in this kind of space. You school me quite a lot. Are we seeing that shift happen quite quickly now, aren't we?
Yeah.
And it's going to scale over the next 4 or 5 years.
Well, there's a massive shift. I mean, let me just go back one, though. I think shoppable, the technology's come along the cost of adding to it versus the benefit of what you're going to see in results from the data, the interactions, as well as the actual checkout and extra incremental purchases that you can get from, commerce media. I think commerce media is going to become a hygiene factor.
Agreed.
If you're in TikTok, you've got TikTok Shop. If you're in open web, you've got Vudoo, you've got other products like PayPal's product, etc. And I think it's going to get to a point where if you're doing a brand communication, if you're doing a call to action, whatever you're doing, making it shoppable or making it interactive to bring them down the funnel to eventually shop is going to be a hygiene factor. And I think going back to AI now, I think AI is seeing that from the outset. And I think, you've seen Sam Altman talk about how he doesn't think ads as they exist today on the internet are right for the experience of a GPT. And you've heard probably a lot about Perplexity's model around Perplexity Shop and all these things. And they see it too, because essentially you're having a shopping experience with the GPT.
Yeah.
You're asking it all the questions. Will this is my size? Will it fit? Does it come in green, or can I get that one in black? Is there one with a smaller logo? All these questions you can ask GPT. That's a shopping experience. Right now, most of the GPTs will stop at the giving you the answer. They might give you a link out and the references that they got their information from, but that experience is a little flawed. And I think that's where all the AI companies like Sam are speaking is, hey, let's give the consumer the experience they're after and allowing them to shop from the content, from that point of inspiration. And you would have heard us talk about that. That's one of our little catch cries at Vudoo, isn't it? Like allow the transaction to happen from the point of inspiration, if they're so inclined. And I think that's what's really interesting about where, SEO as we know it and search as we know it is absolutely being disrupted as more and more people can, conversate with their GPTs, and they've trained their own models, and the models have got more sophisticated. And so that top of the funnel being, that search piece, for digital advertising, it's transferring to being in GPTs. And so brands need to figure out how they can show up and allow that transaction to happen from that environment.
Would you say, the way that I see it is, brands have now built, say brands that maybe have D2C sites or not, they have built solid internal knowledge bases around best of breed SEO, SEM, over the last 20 years, right? It's ingrained in their process, in their systems, and the CFO knows what it costs and he knows what it drives. She knows what it drives. Their heads must be spinning.
Yeah, I mean, the big publishers, they've all got an e-commerce offering. You got, we're working with CNN Underscored. I used to work on the checkout.com.au business, and we still partner with them today. And those models are built off, their editorial expertise. When you search looking for a product, you trust their editorial. So that they capture that search intent, provide the recommendation, and then you click out to buy the product, and it's an affiliate revenue model. And so, yes, they have absolutely mastered SEO. For them, unfortunately, Google keeps changing the game on them. They keep making them write more and more descriptive stuff. And then, Google did a Google, and they came out and they did AI overviews and really hurt those business models. They trained their AI models, their AI overview models on the backs of these publishers' content, and they absolutely did everything to optimize. It's so descriptive with their reviews and tagging, and they invested heavily in understanding what was going to make sure they showed up in those search results.
Yeah.
And then Google's taken all that, trained it, and now the AI overview sits in Google.
Yep.
So all the smart publishers are already onto it. Like I know, speaking to Pippa Leary over at News, she's already bringing in expertise around AIO, optimization of their content for GPTs and large language models, so they can show up there. And I guess everyone's trying to work out what that model looks like in the future. A GPT can coexist with. And I suppose give back to the publishers where they've also trained all their whole models are trained on the backs of these, premium publishers.
Yeah.
And I know that, what we're working on with a couple of the big publishers is a model in AI where we can, reward where by a cost per citation model. I know Jess Gilby at News Corp is really keen on the cost per citation model, where these GPTs can reward the publishers for purchase. And it's an affiliate model because, like Sam said, which I just covered before, you can't show up there with a traditional ad.
No. Jess was spot on with that. That was her call, wasn't she?
Yep.
Shout out to Jess. We love you, Jess. You do a killer job. Let's get into something that I know that you know really well. You did a fantastic job at News with it. You get calls regularly from a lot of brands, even at Vudoo now, and that's around targeting and demographics.
Yep.
Let's talk targeting because I know it's one of your babies, really. But the old guard, it's changing. Demographic model, there's cracks starting to appear. What are we seeing? What are you seeing?
Well, I think we've seen the maturity of data. I think people are really understanding how to use the opportunity that data presents. I think they've got sophisticated capabilities now here in Australia, but abroad as well. And they've tested. And now people know over-targeting is not the way. And so it's getting the right amount of targeting, but also the right amount of targeting in the right context. So context is back. It's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater like some commentators say. It's all about context targeting. It's both. And it's about how you use it. I mean, the temptation with all the tools of targeting that there is to use it all. And quite often, and what everybody's now figured out through, test and learns and things like that, when you over-target, the targeting conflicts with each other and you actually miss your target. Or you've got such a niche audience that it's not going to work. I think also, everybody along the supply chain is offering a degree of targeting. So you've got the publisher, you've got the SSP, you've got the DSP, you've got the clients, third-party partnerships, you've got the client data. And if you're using all of that capability along the supply chain, there's going to be some conflicts. So it's about keeping it simple, stupid, using the right tools to find people that have high intent. And then when you've got that targeting right, it's about putting it in the right context where that intent can turn into action, where the mindset of the consumer, even if they're showing intent, they need to also be in the mindset to want to shop, for example.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to see people understand that. And it's really exciting because people have made huge investments in data. I know MI3 and Paul at MI3 had a lot of conversations with a lot of marketers around, is the investment in CDPs and data platforms, are they realizing all that MarTech investment, are they realizing the return on investment? Well, I think they're starting to see that it can work, and with all the experimentation, how it works. So it's exciting.
When do you think the solid investments in CDPs occurring? Was that about 3 or 4 years ago? Later, you're across that space pretty deeply. You think it's taken that long to mature into a real return? Yeah,
I mean, probably started about 8 years ago, whereby people realised that they needed to invest, and they started to implement these tools. They were in their early days, as all technology, so they were evolving, and it also takes a long time to implement these big enterprise-wide systems properly. I know from our own experience, it took a good couple of years to get the Adobe CDP up and running and us understanding how to use it and it working really accurately, and us feeling really confident that we had something special. And then things evolve by the time you get it implemented. So I think it was about 8 years ago. I think about 5 years ago, we then saw, I guess, the second tier of publishers and clients and so forth, because the pricing and the availability of the technology was more competitive. So you saw a second sort of jump then. And then I think it's taken that amount of time for then people to go, okay, it's accepted that it's part of the marketing infrastructure, accepted the cost. The CFOs probably asked some really hard questions around, are we getting the return on investment? They've experimented, and I feel like, I could be wrong, there probably are some naysayers still out there, but I feel like most marketers, most publishers, most people in the advertising ecosystem are 100% now seeing the value in those investments. But it did take a while, yeah.
Yeah, well, the data, obviously collecting all that data and then being able to structure it and look at it in insights leads to signals, right?
100%.
And those key signals are what drive everything. Again, shout out to LiveRamp, because I know that you've spent a lot of time with LiveRamp and they played a key role with regards to data and ID and signals, right? Am I correct there?
Yeah, and bringing all that ecosystem together. And as I was saying before, not over-targeting, working out how you bring it all together, clean room, whatever solution that is best for that particular advertiser, but really figuring out how that ecosystem could be used correctly. Now, there's still mistakes out there. I mean, I don't know why I have a visceral reaction to the standard old retargeting models, whereby I bought my Adidas running shoes and that exact pair, and they're sitting there following me around for another 2 weeks in the ad with the same shoes that I've already bought. And for me, that's just wasted impressions and a bad use of data. So we're still not there.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, our own experience in booking accommodation, right? When our team books accommodation when we're traveling, and we book it through booking.com, which is an amazing platform. Unfortunately, when we book those properties, for the next 2 weeks, we're served the same property and we've just booked it over and over and over again. It's amazing how much waste there is in that space, really.
Yep.
Okay, so off the back of data, signals, and targeting and that kind of conversation, my team, we did a piece of research actually and discovered that 71% of respondents said real-time signals and context are the top opportunity for commerce this year in Australia specifically, 71%. And what we're finding is that our agency partners are really leaning into that. They understand it and they're really stepping up. And I think it's their models, because there's so much shifting. There's shifting sands underneath the agencies, right? We're seeing big global agencies merging. We're seeing the other big agencies just eating up and leading the pack. And we kind of unpacked this a bit with Jason Westcott from WPP Media, and shout out to Jason because he is a stellar bloke. He talked about the silos, brand, media, commerce, they're blurring. I think this is a challenge for agencies, and it has been a challenge. And whilst their agencies shifting sands and underneath their foot and moving around, but what the agencies always do is they step up, they level up, and then they lean right in. And we're seeing that right now. And a lot of the messaging that's coming out and the activity and the voices coming out of agencies are really impressive. This was discussed, and we saw a lot of this happen around the IAB Retail and Commerce Summit. The agencies really turned up, which was really seen as a great thing. And we know, commentary by people like Lachlan Bray, who's, again, an impressive operator. I think we've shout out to Lachlan. We've got him coming up. He was really impressed with the way that they're leaning in. And I think there's a lot of value from those agency partners really looking internally, looking at how their own models are shifting around and what they need to actually solidify and then be able to speak to their brands and their partners and their customers about from a position of strength. And I'm starting to see that more and more and more. And I think it's a really, really good thing. I think they've got a lot of value to share with the experience, and especially media. And like, as we said before, the challenges, some of the core challenges, and I spoke about this, and it was a topic of conversation even in November at a conference in London with the Ascendant Council, Retail Media. And again, shout out to the Ascendant people, they're amazing. One of the big challenges was inventory and offsite. We don't have enough inventory. We go offsite, our margins get eroded. How do we fix this? And agencies are really leaning in and solving this problem now. And I think it's a really good thing. And I think they were all over it then, but now their voices are really strong. From the relationships we have and who we're working with, that they're really leaning into what, where we stand. And the data that we're uncovering, such as that the 71%, of respondents said real-time signals and context are the top opportunity. They understand it, and now they are delivering on that in market more than I've seen before. What have you seen?
They are. They're 100% leaning in. I mean, they've been doing it for a while, but as you said, I think the silos are breaking down within the agency structures, and so retail and commerce media are no longer the niche, and we're seeing that there's a great and an important role for these agency partners to play. I mean, if you look at what their objective is to serve the client and deliver the client's results, shepherding clients through how to show up creatively in retail media networks, shepherding them through the fragmentation, that what we were just talking about before with data and intent signals, not over-targeting, and how to use their data to show the retail media networks how to use that data to get that closed loop attribution, to get that performance out of there. So they've got a huge role to play. Their traditional model has been strained, but I think like they do, they always reinvent themselves. And it was great to hear that they showed up, really big at the IAB Retail Media and Commerce Summit just last week.
Yeah, I think there's always detractors when it comes to talking about agencies, right? And we're not one of them, because we value our relationships and we do great work with them. But I think it's really interesting when you look at companies like WPP, and they've moved now. It was Group M, and now they've moved and they've consolidated, and it's WPP Media. For me, that's a signal. For me, that's that agency understands where the market is going. And we talk about retail media networks, talk about commerce media networks. They're becoming the norm. For us, we've been in this space for quite a while. I dare say what we'll see is a lot of those terms will be dropped, and it will just revert back to this is what media is now. In a very short period of time, it won't be commerce media. It's just media and advertising.
It's that hygiene factor.
Exactly. It becomes hygiene, and this is where you operate. When it's new, it's like going back 15 years and like digital marketing, digital agencies. It's just marketing now. We'll see the same thing. But we're ahead of that wave now, but in a very short period of time, we will be at Cannes again, and it won't be commerce media and retail media. It'll be just media. And I dare say that's when agencies will be once again leading the pack.
And I think they already are leading the pack with some experimentation. You mentioned WPP Media. There's some cool stuff that I'm aware of that's going on around using out of home to drive commerce media outcomes, and therefore also be able to use that interaction with the out-of-home media to retarget them in high-intent environments. So again, using the signals that we talked about and using their expertise around performance marketing and, the programmatic infrastructure to deliver these results for clients. And so, it's really encouraging to see that, even though there has been maybe a bit of turmoil in the agencies, that they're standing up. They're showing their worth.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, big fans. Cool. So it wouldn't be Commerce Media Matters podcast without giving a little bit of self-praise and plug. However, it does lead to an important conversation. Something that we discovered through our research recently from the team was one of the main issues right now with brands in Australia is the economic pressure from performance, from delivering with results. But something that we've found even through our own work that we deliver for our clients and customers. There's an old advertising phrase, oils ain't oils. Results aren't results. What are results now? Are they still quite vanity orientated, or are we looking really at outcomes and real-time? How do we drive those outcomes and real-time analytics and numbers? Being able to, and we talked about that from a data and signal perspective, but being able to be on top of that real-time consumer behavior, being able to attribute direct outcomes and performance is something that's super valued. Of course it's valued, but right now there's a real focus on that with brands in Australia. It was one of the number one things we uncovered from our research. We work really, really hard and have strived to deliver really progressive thinking around data points, interactivity, and shopping behavior at the point of inspiration. And what's what we hang our hat on? Whether a consumer transacts or they just shop and they add to cart, we've found this a lot with the number of campaigns of late. And being able to deliver on that closed loop attribution with real-time analytics has been super valuable for some of our brands, right?
Yeah, that's right, Nick. I mean, we've had some great successes and, case studies with real results are the things we're looking for here. I mean, we've run a Mattel case study. You might have seen our press release recently. I think it was a July press release. We've had some great success in using CTV and rich media, standard display to achieve, commerce outcomes. I mean, we saw, 0.2% interaction rates with the QR code. We saw 58.5% of users clicking through to product pages from that QR code. We saw off display media or an in-stream vertical video, we saw 1.1% interaction rates. I mean, this is unheard of. You're looking at standard display these days averaging just 0.03% click-through rates. So that 1.11%, to be exact, interaction rate is massive.
Yeah.
And we saw a whole heap of clicks. But more importantly, Mattel's own data saw the sales uplift. I think, to quote the Mattel guys, it was 132% increase on product lines that were featured in the advertising beyond the interaction. And we were the only activity that they were running. So let me just unpack that.
It's fantastic.
In the actual advertising creative itself, it featured 2 product SKUs. Using the Vudoo technology to then interact, you got to be able to search through 15 other SKUs. And on those 15 other SKUs is where they saw this increase in purchase as a direct result from the campaign. And they saw that on Amazon, on their Amazon shop, directly online. But even better, there was this halo effect, and they saw people go offline into store, and their product lines were having stock issues in store as a result of the campaign. So we know
fantastic result.
Amazing
stock
result.
Issues. Well, it's not great, but
And what's really exciting is, there's several mediums that were used. It was the same experience, bar a QR code, and like the good old QR code actually works. But it was the same sort of shoppable experience for those people that were showing signs of intent. The targeting, we worked with Yahoo and we worked with News Corp around their intent signal targeting. We used some of the PayPal targeting from Yahoo. We used some of News Corp's intent data, and that's why because we were able to deliver that CTV ad on Tubi to people that were showing high intent. So some great results.
Really proud too. The team's really proud of that, and all our partners. Shout out to Tubi, Yahoo, News, the team at Kinesso. Like it's been a fantastic, a very insightful piece of work, and Mattel is elated. Happy days.
Yeah, well, and shout out to Mattel for being brave enough to trial these things, and they're reaping the rewards. I can't wait for the next campaign. But yeah, I mean, it shows this stuff actually works, and we need more, brands to be brave enough to share their results and share the, the sales uplifts and other bits and pieces for us to know how to optimize and share that with other people so that we can really get this thing moving. I mean, it's got so much potential. It was a brand communication, but it delivered shoppable outcomes, and that's the promise of commerce media, right there.
It's a great opportunity to observe a real brand, a traditional brand, being brave enough to move into this space at the right time, just before the tsunami of this change happens that we talked about with different ad types and the LLMs and shopping. All that is going to move and shift. It was great timing for Mattel to kind of dive in. It'll set the tone for Mattel globally, as we know. So it's a fantastic outcome for all. Yeah. So that's our mid-year wrap, our pulse check on commerce media. So much going on as per usual. Have I woken up? And I seem to have woken up now at the end of the show because my brain's all just full of, capital raising, which, and everybody knows about. But like we're halfway through the year.
Can you believe it?
Like the next half of this year, I just can't get it. It's already like so much changing, so much. Like we talk about the stats, and whenever our audience listens to this, those stats they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Dust. They're changed again because everything is moving so quickly. But great to have you on board officially.
Thank you,
Paul. Great to have your insights.
Yeah, Nick. Like you said, we were talking in pre-production around some stats, and we had one that was 45% of Gen Z are using Chat GPT and things like it. I mean, if we that must be about 80% in the last few months. That's how
gone
fast things
already.
are moving.
Yeah.
And so, we can't wait to talk about that. We've got Lachlan Bray coming up, as we said. We've got Rog, the commerce media guru of Australia, coming up. We'll talk about measurement with him. That's really, really exciting stuff. Like I said, retail media and commerce media, it's no longer a niche. It's here. As we are predicting, it's going to become hygiene to offer a shoppable outcome.
It's just going to become hygiene and norm. Yep, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. And I just want to take a moment to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. We've had an incredible response. I think you and I pinch ourselves to, when we think about the amount of downloads and streams and listens are beyond what we expected. We're getting asked to do more and do different kind of segments and different things. And we've got a whole rich plethora of stuff coming. We'll find ourselves behind a mic. I didn't expect this, but it's going really well. But it comes down to the listeners, and we really appreciate it. So subscribe, tune in, send us your thoughts. We've got more exciting stuff. But yeah, thank you for being our audience, and I hope you take some value from this.
See you soon, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Commerce Media Matters podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow and subscribe. We're always on the pulse of the ever-changing landscape of commerce media, ready to share the newest trends, insightful perspectives, and expert opinions with you. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep making media that matters. This podcast is executively produced and edited by Priya Tahazadeh, with co-producers Sandy Ho, Meg Lirsch, and me, Rachel Fang. This podcast is recorded on the lands of the Bidjigal, Gadigal, and Wurundjeri people, and we wish to acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land.